15 with Everton. I think it's episode 53 today. It's the 14th of August 2022 and we've had a summer of transfers and pre-season to catch you guys up on before we enter our first league game of the season away at Newcastle at St James's Park, which is going to be a tricky fixture to start us off into the new season. Of course, last year was a really disappointing season for the club, finishing in 14th place. And we never got going since I took charge in early January. But now I've been able to blend more of a squad that I felt like building, and I feel we've much more chance this year to go on and make an impact into that top half of the table, and possibly, only possibly, push for a European spot. So I suspect you guys want to see the transfers first, and probably see why. But firstly, I'm going to financially we're a bit better this time around. Now we ended up at the start of the summer. We only got 1 million to spend, but we managed to get a bit more because, as you'll see in a minute, we decided to really kind of get rid of a lot of players and a lot of high earners, which means we're now 9 million in. We've got 9 million cash in the back pocket, and we're projected to make another 9 million by the end of the year. Hopefully we can do that as well. But you'll see now, we've made a massive profit on transfers. As you can see, we've only brought in 9.9 million's worth, 6 players coming in, but we sold 40.5 million's worth, plus a lot of guys going who were on high wages. So we'll go through the outs first. First man out was Jorginho Wijnaldum for 2 million to OGC Nice over in France. He was a good servant for Everton since joining for 3.5 million 5 years ago, but last year he didn't really feature under myself, and he was getting on, and one of those high earners I decided to get rid of for 2 million. Next man going out was Varadzdat Haryam for 3.8 million to Saint Etienne. He wasn't a bad player, centre back, could also play at right back, Armenian international. He wasn't even on that bad money, but his contract was ending at the end of next year, and I wasn't sure even now whether I was going to renew it or not. I might have if I kept him on, but due to that reason alone, I wanted to get some decent money for him, and I got that in 3.8 million's worth. Again, another fairly long-term servant for Everton, joining I think 6 years ago for 3.6 million. So we made a tidy 200 grand profit on him after 6 good years from him. Then those 2 loan guys at the start are irrelevant, and also all these free transfers I don't think have any bearing on the first team squad. But back down here, we're back into first team players, and Kwado Asamoah also left. He was begging to be let go because he didn't get the games. He only played 25 league games in these 2 seasons at Everton. So it was really a bit of a failed move from Man U for 1.7 million. So we flogged him on to Charlton for 875k. They're in the Premier League. I don't know whether, I think they got promoted. We might have just a quick look-see. No, actually, they've been 2 years in the Premier League. That's a right cock-up, isn't it? But 875k to them. He was on high wages at us. He's actually taken a bit of a cut. And as you can see, he's just not the player that he once was. Next man going was the biggest one by far, which was Oliver, leaving for 17.5 million to Valencia. It's a controversial move, I suppose. And as you can see here, he's been really kind of trading clubs left, right and centre the past four seasons. He's found 4 new clubs. He was at Chelsea, then went to Stoke, then to ourselves, and now on to Valencia. Last year when I took over, he just didn't do anything. We had a whole half season of him playing behind the striker, which is a really prominent role. And on paper, he looked like his attributes would have kind of suggested that he was going to be really good at that sort of role. But he only managed to get 3 assists in the whole half season, which was just not good enough for my standards. And I felt it would be better to go out and try and buy somebody who's going to make a better fist at it than he did. And also, he's one of the few guys who we could actually get decent money for. So I decided to offer him out. And 7.25 million was probably the best I could get. I would have looked for a little more, maybe towards the 20 million mark, but I think in the long run, Valencia are going to be fairly unhappy that they outlaid that much for Oliver. Next man out, Nasser Chadli for 900k to Murcia. I think they're in the La Liga. Yeah, another guy who didn't really work out after joining from Spurs this time around for 1.8 million 2 years ago. They obviously went on a hunt for just these experienced guys 2 years ago. None of them have worked. This guy only played 13 league games in his time, in his 2 seasons stay at Everton. Again, wanted to leave. Offered him out for $1 million. A few clubs came in at 900k, and I decided to get rid. At 33 years of age, with those attributes, he just wasn't worth that, and wasn't worth being in our squad no more. Next man was Dean Snedker for 20 grand. I have to say, I don't have a clue what he was doing at the club, having joined for 1.4 grand from Northampton, a League 2 club in 2018-2019. I don't see the rationale behind it, because he was a pretty shit keeper. Well, he wasn't too bad. Like, for a League 1, League 2 club, he'd probably be a decent enough buy, but for Premier League standards, he was nowhere near it. And we've now got three keepers, so there's no room left in the inn for Dean, so he was flogged on. Craig Fraser was just a free transfer goalkeeper, who we offered, I think, mutual termination to. Just didn't work out for us, unfortunately. He had a little bit of potential, but not enough to keep him on. Luke Castagnos left for 2.5 million to FC Sochaux Montpellier, Belliard even, in Ligue 1. He wasn't in my plans ever since I joined, and I loaned him out to Cordoba, where he actually didn't do too bad. 5 goals in 10 in the La Liga for the latter part of last season, and he's got 2 in 2 since going to Sochaux, but I just didn't see any room for him left in the squad. He's on 67 grand a week as well. He was our highest earner at the time, and for those attributes, at 29 years old, there was just no point in me keeping him on. And again, another guy that just had to be let go. Just before I covered the last one, Reece Jevons went on loan to Burnley. He's got a little bit of potential on him, actually. Striker can also play in all the attacking mid roles. He's already got 21 caps for Wales at the age of 22. Got good pace on him, 3-star potential, decent enough all around. And last player out was Mick Ryan for 13 million. And I was going through a little bit of trial and tribulation whether I should keep hold of Mick or whether I should let him go. Of course, he's an Irish international, so it's always difficult to say goodbye to those sort of players. Well, from my point of view, he's a good player, but last year he didn't impress me too much. Scored 6 goals in all competitions overall. Only, I think, 3 in the time I was in charge, and 2 of them were in the last game of the year against Bournemouth, which was quite an underwhelming match, I must say. And he just constantly complained. No matter how many games you'd play him, he was just complaining. And was still complaining during the summer, wanting to leave. We let him go to Arsenal for 13 million. Of course, Arsenal not the team they once were. Especially on this save, they've gone to absolute pot. And they did finish 6th last year, so they're in the Europa League. So I suppose he will be playing Europa League football, but I think we've got a hugely better replacement for Mick Ryan that's come in. So coming in, I'll quickly just go through these guys who you've actually all seen, are the 3 guys that you've seen before. Marcelo Baragatti joined on a free transfer from Roma. Play on the left wing. Unfortunately, we don't have left wingers in our formation at the moment, which is a little bit disappointing. So we're trying to train him up, play behind the striker, so we can maybe make an influence this year. Otherwise, it might be just a rotation year for him. He's a good player though, needs to work on his finishing. Apart from that, very good going forward. Mamadou Touré is going to be, I think, our 2nd keeper, possibly even our 3rd keeper this year. Mali international, 22 years of age. He's just a good keeper. He played 2 games throughout pre-season, kept 1 clean sheet, only conceded 1 goal, which isn't too bad at all. He's only a good Sky Bet Championship player at the moment. He's around the same as Ryan Wilkinson, but Wilkinson is English, so he'll probably get the nod over Touré in most situations where we're bringing in a backup keeper. But nonetheless, I think it was a good deal to get on a free transfer, and I do think there's definitely profit in him. And the other one, you also saw, it wasn't quite confirmed when I showed you this guy. Please go away. It's deciding not to go away. That's disappointing. But Stefano Denzwil There it goes. Who came in on a free transfer from Ajax. He's a solid centre back. I thought he could play a left back. Yeah, he's competent playing left back. Well, we won't be playing him there. Also, we're playing wing backs. But he's a good player from his Premier Division side. He's come in and he's our best centre back by a half star. And he's just a very solid player. Like, good marking, good tackling, good heading, good physicals across the board, and his attributes, or his mental attributes, aren't too bad as well. So overall, a very competent and solid player to have on the books. Nextly, I'll throw you through Dada. A bit of an odd name, I know, but we picked him up. He was at Man United. He was released by Man United after they brought him from Desportivo Brazil. He's played a fair amount of football in the lower leagues, playing at... he played well in the Championship for a few years, League One last year. Has played quite well. And we picked him up. He's a bit of a development project. I didn't realise at the time of buying him that his physical and mental attributes were this bad. Like, when you look at it, what sprung to mind for me was heading 16, marking 18, tackling 17. Like, that's 3 core attributes of a really good central defender. And determination of 15. But apart from that, like, it's really... Positioning is 14, which isn't bad, but he's as slow as fuck. His physicals aren't good at all. I don't see it in him, actually. Like, when I signed him, I suddenly went, oh shit. He's not really the player I thought he was. But nonetheless, I think he's a bit of a development project. I do think we'll be able to get money for him at some stage. Maybe next year, maybe the year after. But hopefully he just adds depth for now, I suppose. And that's all we're looking for in that position, because we do have a few decent players as it was in that position. And then the last two are really the most exciting. Like, Denzil is a pretty exciting signing, but he's a centre back, so that's not like overly exciting, even though he'll be a first teamer. And another, I'm just taking little slices of Aston Villa to Everton during this save, and we have brought in Yuri Tielemans on a season-long loan. Now, as you guys probably remember, at the start of last year, I was giving Tielemans a lot of game time in the side, and he was really impressing me. But obviously, under new boss, who is Gary Bowyer, he just didn't feature as much, and he only, I think, played 7 league games after I departed. And to be fair, there were still like another 30 league games to go. So, no, not 30, like 25. But he obviously just didn't feature too much. He was available on the loan list, and I couldn't turn him down. He's still an excellent player, despite not reaching, I don't think, his maximum potential if you nurture him really well on this game. Because I do think he does become one of the best in the world if you really nurture him well. He's still a good player, not quite possibly what he could have become though. But nonetheless, in the centre of our midfield, he's going to make a real difference. He can play box to box, he can play advanced playmaker, deep line playmaker, he can really fit the bill, and can play just behind the striker as well, but not quite his strongest suit. If you look at it, probably his strongest suit is an advanced playmaker support. He's 3.5 star in that, and he just doesn't have any bad attributes for that. So I think he's going to be a really, really menacing signing for us, and one that I think could prove to be a bit of a steal. And then the big one, like, you've realised, well, I hope you've realised by now that we've gone through 5 transfers. 4 of them have been frees, and 1 has been a loan, which I think it was a 550 grand for the whole year-long loan. 600 grand for the whole year, only 55 grand a week. Plus, we're only paying, I think, 8 grand of his wages, which isn't too bad actually. But then you're probably thinking, where did the rest of the money go? And it went on Carlos Soto for 9.25 million from America, Mexico, over in the Mexican First Division. And this guy is an absolute steal. 9.25 million was his release clause. We had to pay it, and I think actually that was going to work out in our favour, because initially when I got a scout report on him, it said I think 15 to 20 million. I was like, we just can't afford that sort of money. But then I looked into his contract, and he did have this release clause, and boy, thank God he did. It's 9.25 million worth, as you can see already. Oh my God, he is well rounded. Can play up front, Up front is his main position. Can play on the left wing. Holy shit, he looks good. When you actually compare him, he is a better player than Isaiah Brown is. If we have a look at this attributes-wise. He's a much better player than Isaiah Brown. There's not much comparison in it, actually. So he's going to play up alongside Isaiah Brown, which is just going to be, jeez, it's going to be extremely menacing. We actually got this, which finally has worked out that I found somebody when scouting the World Cup. It said to me when at the start of the summer that the World Cup was on in-game. Not actually sure who won it, actually. Can't remember who won it. I might look into that. But this guy came up as very highly recommended. And usually the highly recommended guys, though, are just like, why would you recommend them to me? Because they're already at Man U or something. They're already worth 40 million or something. But this guy was at America Mexico. And there was severe interest from AC Milan and somebody else. It was one of the Spanish teams. I think it might have been Atletico Madrid. And both of them actually put in the 9.25 million bid as well. But we gave him, he only wanted, I think, 38 grand a week. But I bumped it up another 11 grand. Even though that's not really like my policy over for most signings. For this guy, you just had to make the exception and give him that little bit more money to sway him to come to Everton. Because I think he could be a real difference maker. As you can see from pre-season, 7 goals and 1 assist in 5 games. Now I know that's pre-season, but he was an absolute beast in that. I think alongside Isaiah Brown and with one of our loanees that's actually come back who's going to play in the trequartista role, we could have a really menacing front three on our hands. So yeah, I'll take you just quickly through pre-season, which is actually quite good. 1 draw, 5 wins. We drew 2-2 with Pumas, an own goal and Ashani Finley scoring. I'll show you him in a second. He's the loanee that's just come back. We beat Dynamo and Bucharest 2-0, Finley and Lavasia. We beat Southport 2-1, Soto. I think it's Soto. I'm going to go for Soto. And Isaiah Brown. We beat Burnley 3-1, 2 for Finley, 1 for Soto. We beat Mönchengladbach 5-2, 4 for Soto, 1 for Brown. And we beat PAS Giannina, who are in the Greek Super League, 2-0, goals for Soto and Bangura. So a solid enough pre-season. If we have a look, I'll take you through actually the team that's going to go out today and show you what's up there. So Andre Blake is still in goal, 31-year-old now. I think he's still 31 actually. Yeah, he's a good keeper. He was quite good for us at the latter end of last year. He kind of did his job. He had a few every now and then. He pulled out an absolutely sensational performance. Sometimes he wasn't quite as good, but overall I think he's a solid enough keeper. Got Corchia's right wing back. He still does the job despite being 31 years old. He is wanted by Valencia. Yeah, but there's no chance of him leaving because we don't really have a backup right back. I don't think. Well, not a proper one. Nikola Maximovic, 30-year-old, getting on a bit. I was thinking actually maybe selling this guy. Might still look into it. Possibly in January because he is getting on. We need to get money while we can. But at the moment, he's still, I think, our 3rd best central defender. Yeah, that's the case. So, a good player for most Premier Division sides, and his pros well outweigh his cons. So, I think there's still much room. There's still a lot of room for him. Brendan Galloway, another centre back, and also playing centre mid. He was quite good last year. I was very impressed by Galloway, and I still am. He looks a very well-rounded off player. Can play in both those positions quite well. I'm starting him in centre back today, but of course he can play centre mid. Alongside with one of the centre mids who can actually play in centre back. Denswell, I've already shown you. Matt Dance, he turned up a few times last year. Only 4 games, 6.88 rating. I'm kind of regretting I didn't leave him just be at Burnley because he played 25 games in the Sky Bet Championship last year, average rating 7.6, but only 25 games, and yet he won Youth Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year, Matt Dance. Only 25 games. That is a stunning bit of play. He's going to be our left wing back this year, and I'm going to be playing him a lot of times. He's very promising physically. Technically, I think he'll just improve with the more games he plays. He's only on 2.2 grand a week, absolute pittance. He's already got 3 caps for England as well, which is really exciting for such a youngster. To come out of the Everton Youth Academy is fantastic to see, and I always love giving these sort of guys a game. In midfield, we have Mohamed Besic, who he is the guy that can also play centre back, defensive midfielder, right back and centre mid, so he's quite versatile. His attributes are on the down at the moment. I'm not quite sure what's that about. He's wanted by a few clubs, but again, don't really have any intention on selling because he's a solid player. So he's got 80 caps for Bosnia and Herzegovina now, so he's got a wealth of Premier League. No, not Premier League. Well, he does have a wealth of Premier League experience because he's been at Everton since the start of the save and has constantly been a good performer, but he's also got a wealth of international experience, which is going to help him out. And I think, especially with being that good and that versatile, you can't just let those sort of guys go, and that's why he'll be staying. Tielemans you've seen, and Soto you've seen. Isaiah Brown, still good as new. He had a very good World Cup with England. I think he made it into the team of the World Cup and was 3rd top scorer, I think. Probably shows you how good he was. 21 goals in 34 games last year. He came joint 2nd in the Golden Boot. Like, he's a very good player, very good. Again, very good across the board, a bit like Soto. So I'm hoping these two guys really complement each other because they're both so well rounded and such good players. And playing behind them is a Shanley Finlay, who was on loan last year at Burnley, our feeder club in the Championship, and did really well. 24 goals, 8 assists, which was extremely impressive considering it's only the Championship. Like, that's only just a step down. And he's an excellent player, 20 years old. As you can see, another guy who's physically gifted, an absolute speed demon. Again, technically and mentally, I'm just hoping they'll increase as he plays more and more games. He's got, fantastic afro as well to go with it. Hasn't been capped for England fully yet. He's had a few under-21 caps. He's scored 321 English goals in 4 under-21 games. He's already a good player for most Premier Division side, and as you can see, he's still got 1.5 stars if you count the black one to work with. And I just think he's going to be a really good player. Again, another guy who's come through the Everton Youth Academy. That's fantastic to see. I always love a good youth academy. I actually didn't create too many players at Villa. When you look through it, considering we were there for 8 or 9 years, like we had Bradbury, we had Robbie Byrne. I can't think of anybody else that came completely out of the Villa youth setup. Like, we had people like Manfred Gutsa, who's here now at Everton. We bought him at like 15 or something, and he then just progressed through the youth academy, but we bought him in the first place. Speaking of him, here he is. He's got a few attributes that are still going up, a few going down. I'm not sure how much more potential he's left in the bank. Still hasn't been given a international cap by Austria, which I think is pretty bizarre, considering Austria even, not Australia. Well, they're 16th in the world. That's actually quite good. So maybe there's a reason why he's not there. He's only 21 years old, but still. Like, he's just such a young guy. Probably, it feels like he's just been around for ages, considering we bought him for 500k. That must have been when he was, I think, 16, at most 17. It just feels he's like a 25-year-old, but he's actually not. It's just because he's been around since so young that it feels that way. He's still a very good player, though. Speed-wise, like, considering what his speed started off with, I think his speed and acceleration were 8 when he started off, when we bought him at Villa. Like, they're up to 12 and 11 now, which is very respectable. He's really worked hard. He's been a dogged man in training, and he's continued to be that for us at Everton. And actually, he's getting probably the more games that he probably deserves. Like, he'll feature a fair bit this year, I'm hoping, because we do need the 3 centre backs, and there's obviously going to have to be rotation here and there. I think that is it for this year in terms of what the team or the club want me to do. A respectable league position. From previous experience, I think that's between around maybe a 7th and 11th, something like that. Kind of top half, but not quite asking you for Europa League. It's I think just a step down from Europa League. Although I think sometimes they do ask you to have top half, so I'm not sure about that. They don't think the Capital One Cup is important. I disagree. I think the Capital One Cup for a team that we have could be very important because we could really go far in it. Because I do think if we put out the right teams and have the right blend of experience and youngsters, we could really go far. We've got Brighton in the first round at home, and they're 17th in League One after a few games, so they haven't had a great start. They're not a great team, so we should breathe through that. They need us to reach the 5th round in the FA Cup, which is again quite doable, unless we get drawn an absolute stinker like Chelsea in the first round. I think that's again very feasible. So I think we're going to get into today's game. The team is as I went through it. So we might as well just get into it here at St James's Park. I'm really excited for this year actually, which is a kiss of death, because that always means that I'll lose this first game. I've worked out that whenever I'm really excited for a season, they'll kick me in the teeth with a nice little 2-0 defeat to start us off. We're still controlled and flexible, and those are my team instructions. So if you want to pause the video now and have a look-see at them, feel free to do so. But from my point of view, I'm just going to breeze on through them. And we've got today's game underway. The highlight stuff seems to be right, and we'll get this new season underway. We're on at the 1:30 kickoff on Sunday, so a lot of the teams have already played actually. So we're the first Ford Super Sunday game of 2022-2023 season. I think that's the season we're in now. It's a long time. I think this is our 9th season overall, which means we did 8 and a bit at Villa, and we've done half of one at Everton. This is our first proper season. And here's Soto into Matt Dance. Oh, he's done it! Fair play to Matt Dance. Sneaking in behind. I'm sure he's dancing in celebration. His first ever goal for Everton in the 13th minute of the new season. He just creeps in behind here, and that's what I love to see from a complete wing-back. It's always very positive when your wing-backs are good enough to get in behind, but then also good enough to have the composure to finish those sort of chances off, because they're trickier than they look. To actually just keep your composure and put it away. And Finlay, he doesn't have the composure. That's a shame, because he deserves, I think, to have a good season. Considering how good he was in the Championship, I'd be really, really sad. I have to say, sad would be the word. Tielemans here has got the ball. Now out. Here's Isaiah Brown, the saviour of last year. If we didn't have Brown last year, we would have gone down, I think. And here's Finlay again. Oh, he's roofed that. 2 goals within 22 minutes, and both of them from Everton Academy players. How refreshing to see is that. Are these guys the new Robbie Burns? Hopefully so. I do think actually Finlay on paper is a better player than Robbie Byrne, because Robbie Byrne, like, I don't know how he was so good, because on paper he was such a shit player. Like, he had a bit of potential on him, but that was around it. But anyway, it's been a cracking start to the new season here. 2-0 already. Could you ask for a better start? And I do think, as I was saying before, I'd be really sad if Finlay doesn't do well this year, because I think he should. Because he had such a good year in the Championship, that's always a good sign. Like, even though it's not quite the Premier League, because Newcastle have brought one back on us. But it shows you that he's got goal-scoring pedigree. And I'm hoping that he can just transfer that. Just one league up. It's not like we're making the step up from League One to the Premier League. It's step up from the Championship to the Premier League. And Burnley, I think, finished 8th last year in the Championship. So just outside the playoffs. So he was playing at a fairly high standard. So hopefully that's kind of the performances he can give us. The goal he scored today was typical of him, and really what I'm hoping he'll do on a fairly consistent basis this year. Anyway, we're 2-1 up at half-time. This is an excellent start to the season. That little goal from Contreras, Contreras has put a little bit of a spanner in the works, but I'm not going to change anything just yet, because I think the game is going well enough for us to just not make any changes yet. We might look into something around the hour mark and see can we tinker around, especially if they get their equaliser to bring it back to 2-2. Like, based on the statistics of the game, they really shouldn't bring it back to 2-2, but you know, Football Manager, it always seems to kick you in the teeth just when you're down. And here's Corchia, though. Maybe we have a chance to get back our 2-goal lead, and it's into Isaiah Brown, and he's not going to miss that, is Isaiah Brown. He's too much of a good finisher. He's too much of a good player to pass up an opportunity like that. They're literally serving him a goal there. Corchia with a nice pass, but woeful defending. Brown is all alone, around 8 yards out, and he's just not going to miss from those sort of chances. Like, those sort of chances really are bread and butter for Isaiah Brown, and he slots it away at ease. So we're going to make our first change of the game, and we're going to bring on James McCarthy for Yuri Tielemans. McCarthy, of course, a long-term servant for the club, and still very good despite being, I think, 31. Tielemans also just suffering from a bit of fatigue. Understandable that a fair few of these guys are struggling from fatigue in the first game of the season. It seems to be a fairly common thing to happen. So we're going to make another few changes here. We're going to bring on Manfred Gutze for Matt Dance, who's had a stunning game. Fair play to the lad. And we're going to bring on Lavage for Ashani Finlay. So we've taken off the two of our goal scorers, which I suppose is a little bit controversial, but I don't want to burn them out. You know, that's always something you got to take into consideration with younger players. You know, you can't let them burn out too early in the season, because that's what happened to Raheem Sterling, I believe, in his first year at Liverpool. Not necessarily last year, but the previous year. He played really well for the first 15 games of the year, but then really ran out of steam because he just played so many games. And they ended up having to give him like a real kind of nearly a leave of absence from the team. And like, it wasn't quite that, but he just didn't play a few games. Are they going to score here? They are. That's a wonder strike from Thomas Ott. So it's been a very entertaining game, this one, actually. It's going to end up, I hope, 3-2 in our favour, as long as we don't screw anything up here late on. A little disappointing that we've conceded 2 goals. That second one we couldn't have done much about, though it was a very good strike. The first one was a disappointing goal from our point of view. Brendan Galloway, I don't think, was marking tight enough. But apart from that, it's been a very good performance. Like, going forward, we have looked threatening. We've managed to get goals for Isaiah Brown, Finlay and Matt Dance. Fortunately, Soto couldn't get on the score sheet just today, but I'm going to give him at least half a season to blend in. Like, if he does anything in this first half of the season, I'll be impressed, because it's so difficult to come in to the Premier League, especially from a South American country. Oh no, sorry, Mexico's North America. But you know what I mean, South America, North America, and make an impact straight away, because it's such a difference in intensity. Like, it's just such a huge difference. Anyway, between the next episode, which is going to be the Wigan at home, because it's at the 1st of October, there's a fair few fixtures to get through. We've got Manchester City at home next in the league, which is going to be pretty treacherous, before Brighton at home in the Capital Cup, as I said before. Stoke at home in the league, which is another tricky tie. Watford away in the league, getting back to winnable games. Hull away in the league, tricky because they've turned into a decent team. Swansea at home, which is possibly winnable, before the Wigan game, which will be the next episode. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave in the comments, who do you think will be our most successful player this year? Whether it's a new transfer, whether it's possibly Matt Dance, Finlay, one of the younger guys that's who's going to probably come onto the scene this year. Leave them in the comments, and subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. I'll see you guys later. Bye.